is a pattern tutorial for a shirt dress that features a bishop collar around the neck. It has long sleeves with cuff. The silhouette is also an A-line silhouette. It's really comfy and loose on the body, and the highlight has to be the ruffle that goes around the front and the back. Now, to make that ruffle stand out even more, I decided to contrast the use of fabric using a plain material on top and ankara or print on the bottom, so you could really see the difference in shape and you can see the style line that this shirt dress has. If you guys would like to see a sewing tutorial, please let me know down below, leave a comment, and we could possibly make that happen in the future.
This tutorial is a paid partnership with BetterHelp.
BetterHelp is an online platform that connects you with accredited therapists that would give you helpful and unbiased advice. Now, this is a platform I discovered last year and I've used myself. I enjoyed it so much I actually gifted it to a family member who was dealing with their own issues and they found it helpful. The way it works is you go onto the platform, you fill a questionnaire that helps them to match you with a therapist. Now, this therapist you can communicate with via video call, voice call, or via messaging, whatever you feel comfortable with. When I used it, I actually just preferred normal phone call because I was dealing with loss and I felt very vulnerable and I was not just comfortable, going to see someone face to face. So those phone calls came in so handy. Now, the therapist I got matched with was a woman. She was African, she was Christian, so our values aligned in that regard. If the therapist you get matched with first does not fit you, you can always go back in and change your therapist at no additional cost. There are over 4 million people using BetterHelp today to live a happier and a healthier life. Taking care of your mind is not overrated, is not something that you should overlook, because at the core of our existence is our mind and our mental well-being. If you'd like to try out BetterHelp for yourself, I'm going to leave a link down below. You would see it in the video description, and it's betterhelp.com/KimDave, and this will give you 10% off your first month. I highly recommend it because it really helped me heal. It helped me to move on from that experience, and it's something that I will continue to use in the future if I have one of those moments where I feel like I just need to take care of myself mentally. With that out of the way, let's get into the tutorial.
These are the following patterns I'm going to be working with to create this shirt dress. I have my basic bodice front and back, and this pattern just simplifies a lot of steps that I would have had to do from scratch otherwise. This is a PDF pattern that is available on the KimDave shop. I'm going to link it down below for anyone who doesn't have it and wants to grab a copy for yourself. It goes from a UK 6 to 16. I'm also going to be working from my basic sleeve. This I have done from a previous tutorial, and I'm going to be using that in addition to my basic bodice pattern. Now, these are the measurements that I took on myself in addition to working from the basic patterns that I shared earlier on. This way I have everything written down and ready to create the patterns for the front, the back, the sleeve, and all the additional details that this shirt dress has. Now, I'm going to start from the front. I have my front basic bodice and I've layered a piece of paper over this, and I'm just going in here to trace off the center front edge. I will trace off the shoulder seam as well, and I'm marking my desired dress length. Mine is quite short. Mine ended up being like 30 something inches, so just work with what you're comfortable with. On the side, I'm just adding 1 inch extra ease because I want the dress to be very roomy and loose on the body. This I'm just changing up on the side seam so it connects down to the waistline. I'm going to extend the center front edge down like so and draw in the hemline of my dress. I want the silhouette to be A-line, which means it kind of flares out from the bust outwards. So the hem width is 14 inches, which is quite wide. That I'm going to connect to the side seam, so I have a full shape, full seam ready to be connected to the back. I'm just going in here to transfer the bust and the waistline, and then I'm going to go to my front neckline and drop it by 0.75 inches. You can skip this step if you want your collar to be really high on your neck. I didn't just want mine to be very tight, hence why I'm just dropping it and opening it up a little bit. After transferring notches that I wanted to keep on my pattern, I'm going to go ahead and extend the center front edge by 1.5 inches. This is going to become my button stand or placket, and this I'm going to do twice because I want to fold it twice in such a way that I have a folded reinforced edge on the front, one side for my buttons and then the other side for my buttonhole. The next thing I'm going to do is divide the front into two, and I'm marking 7 inches below the center front edge, so I have that V shape, and then 3 inches down my shoulder slant. This I'm going to connect together to give me the V style line that this shirt dress has on the front, and then I'm going to add a notch so this guides me when I'm connecting pieces together. So I have the 2 panels here. These I'm going to trace off on separate pattern pieces, the top and the bottom. So for the top to just be from this slanted edge upwards, including the shoulder, the neckline, and then I'm going to add a 1 centimeter seam allowance around the pattern before cutting it out. Once I'm done doing that, don't forget to add your notches, grain line, annotations, what line is to be folded, what line is your center front line, because with designs that have a lot of patterns, it can be very confusing if you don't know what is what exactly. The next thing I'm doing here is tracing off the bottom of the front shirt dress, including the extension for the button and the buttonhole stands, and then I also added a 2 centimeter hem allowance. This pattern I'm actually going to be slashing into 3 panels, and the aim is to slash it from the hemline upwards. So I'm just dividing that slanted line into 3 before drawing in the division lines. The aim of slashing and spreading is to add volume to the bottom of the dress. If you don't want your dress to be really roomy and flowy along the hemline, you can skip this step, but I wanted mine to have a more circular finish around the bottom. So I'm going to be slashing from the hemline up onto that slanted line that you have the connection of the front, top and the bottom, and these I'm going to slash and then spread them. To ensure that the spread is contained and I keep that volume, I'm going to layer some paper underneath, and I'm going to be spreading along the hemline by 4 inches. If you want yours to be even fuller, to be more playful, you can add more. If you don't want it to have as much volume, you can add less, but I worked with 4 inches for my pattern. So I'm going to spread all of the panels by 4 inches, and once I have that spread in there, I would need to go in to draw a new hemline. Now, because of how the spread has happened from the center front towards the side, the hemline is going to be more of a curved circular hemline instead of a straight one that it was before I slashed and I spread everything. Because the hem allowance is included in there, seam allowance has been included, I'm just going in here to shave off any extra paper I don't need. Now, because of the spreading that has happened on this pattern, I would need to go in to refine that slanted seam on top of this like front pattern here. And once I have that in place, I'm going to transfer any line or any notch that I think is important, so the notch connecting both panels, and then just draw in my stitch line before cutting out the pattern. So this is what the front shirt dress looks like. This is one of those designs that there's just a lot to do, but if you do it well, it's so worth it. Moving on to the back patterns, I'm going to be making some changes on the front plan that I kept intact, and it's going to save me some time. On that, I'm just going to transfer the back neckline, which is typically higher than the front, transfer the center back edge as well. I'm just doing it in green pen so you guys can see which one is the front and which is the back. Don't forget to transfer notches as well. And then once I have those lines drawn in place, I'm going to get some paper and trace off the back pattern. So it's going to have a top and a bottom panel like the front. Don't forget that with the back, it's going to be cut on a fold, so you will need to add a seam allowance on the center back, except if you want a seam on the center back of your dress. This I'm going to cut out after adding seam allowance and transferring my notches. I'm just going in here to write my annotations, adding my grain line, so I have that back top pattern piece already done. For the bottom of the back shirt dress, I'm going to transfer that center back edge, the hemline, the side seam, as well as that slanted seam where the top is connected to the bottom. Add a 1 centimeter seam allowance around the pattern and a 2 centimeter hem allowance along the bottom. The same way we slashed and spread the front is what we're going to do here. I decided to do this step because I just wanted like accuracy with this pattern. I didn't want to risk anything in terms of like trying to use one pattern for both front and back. So like what we did for the front, I'm going to be dividing the piece into 3 panels. This I'm just going to draw lines that slant from the hem all the way to the top, and then I'm going to slash and spread it from the hemline all the way to the top. I spread it by 4 inches like I did for the front, and this is what the back pattern is looking like. Don't forget to make that correction on the slanted seam on top. Now moving on to the ruffle pattern piece that has a full dramatic effect on this dress. I'm just measuring along the slanted line on the front and on the back. And for this, once you have those measurements, you add them together and multiply them by 2. And then whatever that measurement is, you multiply that by 2 again. So that gives you how long of a rectangular piece that you need to cut to gather back into that seam. My ruffle width is 7 inches. That's including seam allowance on both sides. I just say the longer you make this piece, the more dramatic the ruffle will be on your shirt dress. That's just something to keep in mind. This shirt dress design has a bishop collar, and to help me create my collar piece, I'm just measuring the back neckline, and I'm going to take note of that length because that would help me when it's time for me to create my patterns. Now I've laid some paper underneath that front neckline, and I'm just tracing it off, tracing up to the fold line on the center front edge, and then I'm going to add a connecting notch that helps me to join the collar to the neckline of the dress on the front, as well as transferring that shoulder seam. Now remember that back neckline measurement that we took, you're going to be extending it from the shoulder seam upwards by whatever length your back neckline was. The collar piece itself is 1.5 inches tall because I wanted it to be a substantial height because it's just a bishop collar. You can have yours thinner or wider if you would like. So after marking the 1.5 inch along the entire collar piece, I'm just drawing in the top of the collar, and I want the front edge to be more rounded. This you can have as a square, this you can have as a rounded one like I have done, and you can have it as a V that is more pointy. I'm going to go ahead and divide the front area into 2 because I just want to add a little bit of room in there. After adding a 1 centimeter seam allowance around my collar pattern, I'm going to actually go in and slash along that point that I drew that is kind of like a middle point on the front neckline. I'm going to be spreading it by 1 inch. I found that to just be a little bit too big. I would say spread yours by 1/2 inch if you want a more snug fit around your neck. The 1 inch works, but if you have a really slim neck, you would find that it would look very gapey and it would look very wide. So 1/2 inch is like a good point to start, but that's what I added here, 1 inch, and that's what I'm going to be working with. And you see the finished outcome in the pictures that I will share towards the end of this video. Now I'm just shaving off any extra pattern paper and drawing in my grain line, and once I have that drawn in place, this is what my collar pattern piece looks like. The last set of patterns I'm going to be creating are for the sleeve and the cuff. The sleeve here is a basic sleeve. This I'm going to be adapting to my desired design, and I'm dividing the sleeve pattern into 4. Along these division lines, I'm going to be, yes, you guessed right, slashing and spreading. The aim is to add volume around the bottom, so we have more of a balloon sleeve, which is going to be gathered into the cuff of this design. This I'm going to slash as close as possible to the top edge, and I'm going to be spreading them along the bottom. I decided to spread mine by 5 inches. Yet again, it's one of those things of if you really want more drama and more vavavoom in your design, you can spread your sleeve pattern by 6, 7, even up to 10, as long as you have enough fabric to accommodate your design. Once I had all of my panels spread out, I am drawing in the new sleeve hemline, which is going to be a curved hemline that sort of goes from the side and then meets in the middle. And then I'm going to add a 1 centimeter hem allowance that's going to allow me to stitch things up. Now I want a sleeve placket. This is about 5 inches away from the left side and it is 4 inches tall. This would allow me to add button and buttonholes to the cuff of my sleeve. Once I have everything drawn in place, grain lines and annotations, I'm going to cut out my sleeve pattern, and this is what it looks like. Once I'm done with this sleeve pattern, I know there's only one piece left to make, which is the piece for the cuff. Now, when you're making your cuff, it's important to include extra measurement that allows you to wrap around and have your button and your button holes. Mine is 10 by 4 inches, and that's the last pattern piece that I created for this dress design. Ended up being about 8 pattern pieces total, and because I wanted the dress to come out really well and I had a function to wear it to, I took my time creating the patterns. Let me know if you guys would like to see a sewing tutorial. Leave a comment, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and until my next video, have a good morning, afternoon and evening wherever you are. Bye.